Hey, podcast friends. If you love our podcast and want to help support us to continue making cool shit, consider joining our Patreon community. Get early access to each episode, a monthly hangout on Zoom, custom answers to your questions in exclusive Patreon videos, and much, much more. Head on over to patreon.com/conversationswithcreators to become a patron today. Your support means the world to us. Now on to the episode.
Our roles as filmmakers is to align our intent with our impact.
Yeah.
And we get to choose like little things of like, okay, like how loose do we want to be like with our intent? And if we achieve like a little bit of a different impact on our audience, is that okay?
Yeah.
And so, and like how strict do we want to be? It's like, this is our intent and this is the impact that we're going to have on people. And so what I've worked on, what I've learned about is like having, a range of choices. So you want to know, is like, is it initial idea? Is this first thought? Or are we exploring this idea? Is the visual going to be like symbolic or literal or abstract, realistic, hyperreal? Is it lean more into a genre, a style, or a trend? Or how do we blend those if we're having all three? So, we're doing like noir and 90s hip hop with the first person drone flying through a bowling alley trend. It's like, how do those mesh, and how do we do that? Like, how do we do that visually to make all three of those elements work? And it's like, is it classic? Is it contemporary? Is it futuristic?
And for the audience, if none of those terms made sense to you, go do some YouTube research, because I literally, like, as you said, noir, 90s style, like first person going through a bowling alley. I know exactly what that looks like.
Yeah.
And no, you're absolutely right. It's a visual language.
Yeah. ASC members are extremely accessible. Like, you can just reach out and Instagram them. You'd be like, hey, you want to grab a coffee? I'm new in town. I'd love to do this thing.
The power of the Instagram DM cannot be understated.
Exactly.
So the big question is this: how are creators like us, who aren't built for the 9-to-5, for the people who put their passion before them being comfortable, how do we turn that passion into a living that pays the bills and a life that we love? That is the question. This podcast will give you the answers. My name is Noah Mittman, and welcome to Conversations with Creators. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Creators. I am your host, Noah Mittman, and joining me today is a super awesome guy, JD Gonzales. He's a director of photography. He teaches cinematography. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell everybody kind of how you got into cinematography, filmmaking, what kind of sparked that originally.
Sure. So I've been, privileged enough to have a long history with filmmaking, and I actually went to an arts-focused high school, which...
Oh, wow, cool.
Yeah, it was great. So they had a film department, and I got in 8th grade and then all the way through high school. And I think it was like my sophomore year that I realized, like, this is definitely like what I want to do. Like, I feel like I fit this. Like, I like the creative side, and I like the technical side. I was really into, like, I built my own computer, and
wow.
Really, like, we were modding Xboxes at the time and changing the software, and like probably a few less than legal things as a teenager. Putting that like 250 gigabyte hard drive into the Xbox, and modding like the Halo levels, and it just went with like the storytelling I was learning in school, and the music I was using in school, and then that led me to film school, and then in Santa Fe at Santa Fe University of Art and Design, also known as College of Santa Fe. It was College of Santa Fe, switched over. Long story, they're bankrupt now, unfortunately.
Oh no.
Yeah, long. That's a very long story. I'll take another hour-long podcast.
Yeah, right.
But I loved the art school. It was a private art school, so I know that was certainly a privilege that I had. And then went to, after that, worked in the industry in New Mexico for a couple of years as a locations PA. And then moved.
What year was that?
That was 2012.
Okay, so New Mexico's been popping off for a while.
Yeah, so yeah, like we can go into that. There was a time when New Mexico wasn't popping off, and
Yeah,
the incentives were completely stripped away by their then governor. I think it was Susan something. It was they stripped away everything because they didn't see how it was benefiting the communities and these smaller towns, and it immediately just tanked the entire film industry, which was just so much money, as you can see.
yeah,
And once they saw that, after maybe a year and a half or two, even it was really ugly for a minute. They put them back in place, and they're there to stay because they know the economic impact it would have. So, and now you can see like Netflix.
Colorado needs to listen to that example.
Yeah, yeah, and I have some ideas on what Colorado can do, but yeah, they're smarter people than me on that topic.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yeah, there's so yeah, after New Mexico, moved to Colorado, taught high school for 5 years,
Oh
well
wow.
industry. Yeah, so I was working on some random really small commercial stuff on the side, and teaching high school during the school year. And it was actually at the same high school that I went to,
That's
because
cool.
I knew that like I really loved.
Yeah,
I was I felt like I could make that education experience better for the
yeah,
students than what I had. And although like I appreciated it, because on some level it's like, I you just like someone just handed me a camera, and I was like, that's it for me. Like that works. They gave me that
yeah,
that freedom, and they gave me some boundaries, and that really worked. And I was like, oh, I could just like, if I had the same amount of time with these students, then I could really impact them, like with my knowledge that I have now
yeah.
post college and in the career. So I did that, and I would go out on productions like on weekends. It was like really long work weeks, and
Yeah.
during you have the class hour and a half every day, same students for 4 years. You really get to know them, and then I would go out on the weekends and help them with their productions. So I would
Nice.
kind of, and just be the adult in the room. So working with parents. So that's kind of
Yeah,
like the client thing. You're working with parents are basically the clients,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and students, you're teaching them as you go along. So it's just really natural for me. And so when I left the school, oh, in the summers I would come to New York and work actually. So I did that a few times. Come out, shoot a feature, work on a feature as an electric, and then come back, go
Yeah.
to Denver. Um,
Constantly going, man. Yeah, that's a lot of. There's no downtime in the schedule there.
yeah, well, it doesn't stop, like,
Yeah,
even to this day,
that's true.
it's just been crazy. So 2018, left the school, moved out to New York, was in a long distance relationship with my now wife, and then moved back to Denver in 2019, and I was just totally lost. And like, it's like great, like I, was doing electric stuff in New York. This is what I know, like this is what I'm good at. But it was so hard for me to break in like fully and make like a full time living here. And then I moved out here in June. You make all your network by August, and then like by winter, it's like things are drying up anyway. People are are already in those grooves, so the work wasn't coming in fast enough. Um, and I don't, I never like had the mindset of like, I'm gonna go work at a, I should, but I'm gonna go like, I'm gonna go work at a coffee shop right now and make that extra money so that I can be here right now.
Yeah,
I mean, I was kind of like, yeah, I want to do this, and I want to do this creatively, and I don't think that this is even the path for me, and so that's really confusing.
yeah,
So when I came back to Denver, I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to make that happen here. Like I came back, and I was still paying rent on my place in New York, and moved in with my parents, and I was still in my relationship, of course. And uh, it was January, it was winter, nothing was happening, and I just figured like, what can I do right now? And I had a computer, a like plastic table, like fold up table in my parents' living room. And then I was just like, all right, I just need to make one thing,
yeah,
and that'll get me going. And so basically just formed an LLC. It was free, or like maybe it was $10 or something, and then and then
They're surprisingly cheap.
yeah, and then I ended up paying, having a client. Let's see, did a video for a client that ended up costing like $300, but it was like a 3-minute like political video, and it was, extensive work, and it's kind of like a mini documentary, basically like a branded film following a protest, doing interviews, and it was one of those things that just like it was all I needed to get started to show that I have. Proof that I can do this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I did make a music video in 2018 that was also like, love that video. It's from
Interesting. So you really started off working on bigger, like, doing bigger stuff that you were a part of, but not actually putting your own stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I personally think that's really important. It's it's good to be on these big sets and see and work as a production assistant and assistant, just so you can see and understand the workflow and understand what that is like. It's kind of like you can't make like you can't break the rules until you know them.
Correct,
and so it's kind of like, if you're just jumping straight into an indie market, you might not know what rules like the films are breaking that could easily be resolved. And it's like, do we really need to be changing the system that works? And unions and these larger shows have that dialed in. It's like, these are very specific rules of like what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
And that's super nice, like as a job and a paycheck, like, and people love it. Of course, it's like, it is creative, like every role has its creative elements to it, and it's one of those things that when I was in New Mexico, I felt like there was a bit of a glass ceiling on where you could end up with creativity. So you get to be a gaffer, which is great. Like, love gaffers. If that's the route you're going and you want to work big Hollywood, like, yeah, New Mexico's an excellent, incredible place for that. But if you're working above the line, doing producing, director of photography, director, that's like all those things are mostly going to come from New York and LA. So, so those
that seems to be pretty universal across the board with the bigger stuff that I've worked on. Is they always, the above the line people are always not from in town.
Yeah, and there's reason for that, but it's and it has nothing to do with like the talent that is in Denver, because there's tons of amazing talent there.
Yeah,
it's just people who know people, and
it's what they're comfortable with. It's, I mean, it's the entire industry is friends hire friends. That's really how it works.
yeah, and it's and I've learned more and more that just getting intros and just being introduced to people and not like having cold emailing people is the best way to do it. You find some people who really trust you, give them your loyalty, and then they'll show that loyalty back to you, and so on. Like, you just like really play it straight, like, don't try to cut any corners, and
do a good job. And exactly.
Yeah, of course, enjoy yourself too. It doesn't have to be stressful.
How what are your favorite ways to network with creatives and like find those people?
So I go to a lot of events. I mean, particularly here. Okay, so I've done it 2 ways. I guess I've done it like 3 ways. So when I moved to okay, so when I was coming out of school in New Mexico, it was just based off an internship and I had a great boss who introduced me to some people. And then when I when I went to New York the first time around, I leaned on my friends who I had gone to college with, and they brought me onto their sets and said, like, yeah, we trust you, we know you know what you're doing, and then that's how I met some more people. And then, so that's another way, but that doesn't spread very well.
Right.
And then when I was back in Denver, and I think this is, when I moved back to Denver from New York, the biggest strength, the strongest way of networking was just doing the short free stuff and growing with people. And so now I have you know, these beautiful, wonderful people like Orion Madsen and Ian Marks. Orion Madsen's an assistant, camera assistant. Ian Marks is an editor who I've been working with for years now, and he's phenomenal. He works, I mean, and is Ray Dalacroce, who, I mean, he's just crushing it. We did all of these early films, and Sean Endres, and yeah, the list goes on. I could just, yeah. But we would just, you know, do these little projects together and talk together, and it was like just how we bonded, you know, and it's like by making things and struggling with it and struggling like our way like into the industry and giving each other like little tips, like, yeah, working with this place was like this, like, you know, Orion would straight up tell me, it's like, yeah, you might want to look at how this other DP does that, like, because I think this, you know, this could be a little bit better. And it's like, oh, that's great.
Yeah, no, feedback is so good.
Exactly. And that's one of the hardest things to get too, is feedback in general. And I really wish that were just a more common ask from people, is like, is feedback, but also just a more standard, like more of a standardization for the film process in general. Just like, yeah, like, what can we improve on? What can we, you know, what can we change? And what is absolutely perfect? Like, what are we loving and working on? Because we really get into our own heads a lot. So yeah.
Generally, yes. As I think that's creatives in general.
So there was that, and then now that I'm back out of New York, I'm going to networking events, and that's my number one thing I go to. I'm part of a Facebook group, Cinematography Salon. They have events out here. It's Variable, which is a mental health awareness filmmaking group.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and they have events here. You know, I think that the downside is that they're all focused like around drinking, and I just so you know, like, or like, there's panels and things, of course, as well. But you know, I want these things to be a little more casual. So that's one of my goals out here, is to really set it like, yeah, why don't we just all go play pool or something?
Yeah.
I'm definitely
activities around. I started up, and I need to actually get back to it, but doing a industry poker game where you're just hanging out. Like, it's because we, you know, it's nice to have the networking events where like everybody's chatting and you meet like 20 people, but it's also nice to just like, hey, who's into like these activities? And we happen to also be in the film industry, and like that's, I don't know, it's a little bit more fun.
Yeah, exactly. It definitely helps, and it makes the conversation so much easier, and natural, and like helps you really understand.
It's not forced. It's like, oh, we actually like this other thing too, and then we can chat film while we do it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's naturally, like, when you have these events that are planned around like a filmmaking thing, like it can be a little, like, it's not competitive, isn't the right word, but I think there is like an eagerness, like, of people to, like, you know, put their best selves forward, and
just,
it's, you know,
do the business card stab to everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's really one of those things, like, yeah, you know, I just want you to, like, just be chill and be yourself, and have an opinion on things. And I think I think it hurts to not have an opinion on anything. I mean, you don't need to jump into politics, but I think that, you know, if you're not going to tell me like exactly how you feel about something, then I'm not really getting to know you, you know. And maybe that works like for some relationships, but personally, that's not me. I like people who are like transparent and honest, and I want to know that, you know, what part of career you're in, and where, like, and but also just who you are and what you like. Like, tell me about your Dungeons and Dragons weekly thing, you know.
Yeah.
You hear about that, and I want to know what about it excites you, because, you know, that's cool. That's really cool.
It's funny too, because I've been to both filmmaking networking events and like entrepreneur networking events. And the classic questions, the entrepreneurs is, you know, what do you do? And that's the worst. And then for filmmaking, the similar one to that is what have you worked on recently?
Yeah. What are you working on?
What are you working on?
What are
Like,
you
oh
working
my
on?
God, dude. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like every person at the event, right, is saying something like that. So
We agree that doing networking around shared interests outside of film is a nice way to do it.
yeah. And I don't want to say that that's, not like people love to dive in. They love to like go to films, they love to get into the technical,
Oh yeah,
and of course, like I love all of that too. But yeah, it's just like where like you're building it like you would build a friendship, and don't treat it like anything else. It is really a
right.
friendship.
That's what it
Um,
has to be.
yeah, and I think one of the best tips, like I've kind of kept like done this myself as best that I can, is really like as much as you want to like work with people and reach out and work with them, it's really about like you should know that people who are doing really well probably have a large network themselves already, and it's really difficult to hire new people into your circle. That's something I try to change with my production company. I try to shift that up. We can get into that in a bit, but it's hard. It's really difficult because you like it's hard to break into someone else's circle because they don't know your experience. They don't know how to work with you. It can make communication more difficult, and it's nothing that's like against you or your self-worth. It's just like a fact of the game.
Yeah, you get comfortable with the people that you know, and it's hard, but it's so true. They're just like trying to even try like for me trying to get more, camera operating or AC jobs. Like, there's the people, and they like working with their, two people, and
Yeah.
getting into that is really hard.
Yeah, and with the larger market in New York, it's a little easier to
Yeah,
switch around and whatnot. And but I will say that like it's really important to find those people who are at your level, which starts with you being honest with yourself,
yeah,
like what level that you are at, and knowing like, okay, like I'm a beginner, I don't know anything about cinematography, or I just came out of school.
right,
I don't have much set experience. I don't have, I'm like my actual professional set experience where people are getting paid. I
right,
don't understand what the hours of the day are like. I don't know how to fill out a timesheet.
right.
And understanding like these are the things that's like you can work on that, and you can work on that with other people. And
Yeah,
so find other people who have those similar experiences and grow with them. It's like an elevator. It's not a ladder
yeah,
where you're climbing right behind someone. It really is an elevator. As they say, like the all tides raise all ships, or
yeah. Rising tides raise all ships. Yeah, no, it's 100%.
there you go.
Well,
Yeah,
and that was an interesting thing, like
right.
especially going out for some PA work on bigger commercials and TV shows and stuff. I realized that I need to know a hell of a lot more about light and power and all that stuff to actually DP. Whereas I'm very comfortable, and I feel comfortable going out for camera operation gigs,
Yeah, yeah.
because there's a big difference. Like, I call myself a DP before because it sounds good for my own personal stuff, and then you go out to an actual set, and I'm like, oh, I'm definitely not that level yet. But I'll happily press record and change camera settings.
Yeah, and I don't want to deter anyone from doing that path either.
No, and that's I
It's
just
like,
again, it's not a bad
yeah,
thing. It just requires more education, which is fine.
yeah, which and again, we'll talk about crafting the image in a minute.
Yeah,
But these are the kinds of tips and things that I'm talking through with people at this workshop.
that's great.
We're talking about like what are the different paths for getting in there
Yeah,
realistically. What does it mean to run a commercial, a documentary, a experimental, or narrative feature, an indie feature,
yeah,
union route, and what does it mean to jump into different positions, like as a DP or as in camera department, which I'm pretty specific to camera department, which I'll come back to.
yeah,
But yeah, well, yeah, and that's really just about uh, the more you can understand like where you like what industry and what path you want to take, like the better information you're going to get back from people, and how to approach it. If you say, I want to be a DP, and you know, how do I do that? And it's like, okay, that is a really complicated
big question. Exactly. I mean, because just for all the reasons you mentioned, like there's so many different styles of DP, and what what are you good at? What kind of projects do you want to be doing? Is there a specialty that all that stuff?
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point. I love that. There's like, what are you good at versus what do you want to be doing?
Right.
And that is something that you constantly have to keep in mind. It's like if you're really good at shooting action scenes, but you want to get into like slow dramatic narrative films,
Right.
and your whole reel and everything you've shot is action, like you're not going to get those other like slow dramatic narratives or those more cerebral narratives. It's
Well, and I feel like that speaks to as well exactly how you started with networking, with like working on just doing like spec stuff, or free stuff that you are excited in, to get more experience in in what you want to be getting into, just to try it out and learn from people. It's the whole like surrounding yourself with people that are better than you, because that's how you learn and that's how you get better.
Yeah, exactly. And I've called myself a DP for a while. I don't know that I believed it when I first started calling myself that. And it's again surrounding yourself with people who are really good at what they do, which with Orion Madsen, there's a reason I keep coming back to him. It's because he is an incredible first AC and gimbal operator. Like he really knows what he's doing. He's professional, on time. Like I can ask him to just do this, and I don't need to go through any technical know-how in telling him to do that. I don't need to know it. It's like I can fully trust that he is the best person for that job, and he's not trying to be a DP. He is a first AC. It's harder when someone is trying to be it's not true. It's not. Well, when someone is trying to be a DP, there is a reality that one day they're not going to be an AC. So as you're growing that relationship, if I have a big job and I want an AC that I can take on to the next one, and someone tells me like, yeah, they're going a DP route or they're moving to another state soon, it's like, well, it's really hard for me to hire you, and because I want that like that long-term working relationship on that. And that's because I want like, and it doesn't mean I'm not going to help you be a DP or whatever. It's just it's harder to to know that like this is something that I can fully like commit to in the long term. And
I think what you said earlier with it's less of a ladder, more of a elevator, of like, that's what I really realized when I started PAing more for bigger productions. It was like, oh, there are like career PAs out there. And I don't want to do that. So I need to, because it's not like, oh, cool, you pay out this, but like, let's try you out as an AC on the next one. I'm like, that's not how it works. You really got to choose, which is also part of why it's hard to break in, because it's like, how do you get hired on the stuff that you want to be hired for when you don't have the professional history besides the stuff you've made to show.
Yeah, it's a chicken and the egg problem, right?
Yeah, totally.
And I think that it's as you said, like there are career PAs out there, and that's not a problem. Like
no, that's, again, if you like it, you like that route, like that just wasn't for me.
Right. And exactly. And we need to like start thinking of these roles as less as like steps to get up, and more as specialties. Like this is like an AC, a second AC, like that. Those are real specialties. Camera operator is
I honestly I would say the AC is more of, it's so much more technical than operating, because operating, if you have an AC, they'll just hand you a finished camera and you do your thing. AC, you got to build that camera. You got to do, I mean, there's so much involved. You have to have AC equipment. There's it's really it's a whole career in itself, and they're very skilled and technical people.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's just something I've come to appreciate
Oh,
more and
100%.
more, and it's really hard. I would say one of the hardest things that for me in my career path has been just letting go and taking off hats and
Yeah.
fully trusting the people to do the job that they're hired to do. And that's something like I don't want to micromanage people. I'm not interested in that. It's like I want to fully focus on the frame, the image, for the sake of the story, and I want to focus on the movement, like for the sake of the story. Like that's like we are the visual storytellers, and and of course we're the leaders of the crew, and we should know the technical, but I should not be messing with menu systems that I've never seen before. That's
no, exactly. And that was, I mean, it's funny too, because like when something, from what I experienced, because I've been an AC on a couple of TV shows, like really when something goes wrong with the camera on set, like that's the AC's job. That's not the operator's job,
mm-hmm.
which is wild because you're like, oh shit, like okay, like, there's a lot involved. Actually, so you just brought up something that leads perfectly into my next question with your focus on the frame. So how do you approach storytelling in your cinematography work?
Oh, yeah.
I know it's a big question.
Yeah, it is. It's in every aspect of my work. Not every shoot I can do like has like a storytelling aspect to it, but
Sure.
it's the hardest shoots I'm on are the ones that don't have story, and it's like, well, that means I have to like create one as we're sitting here. So if I'm walking onto a set without any information and like a little scene that we need to shoot, or if it's like a branded doc and it's like, okay, there's someone at their computer here, and it's me and a producer, and the producer doesn't have an idea of what shots you're going to get. You'll run into this all the time. It's
Yeah.
and
there's never a shot list when it's just a corporate
thing. We've all done it, and
yeah.
it's but the immediate thing is like, okay, like that first thing you ask producer is like, yeah, how long is this video? Like how long do we need to take? And it's like, okay, of coverage you need, and then you turn that into like, all right, like how are we going to tell this story, and how can we make it the most interesting? Is this like a really dark part of the story? Like, are we like, can I play with like slow push-ins like onto like, is it a thinking piece, or is it just if it's just them working at a desk, that's pretty boring. It's like, so it's like, how can we make that more interesting then? Is it about all of the other people who are working too, and the fact that they work on their own? It's that's the story. But as far
a
as
lot of it just sounds like questions. So it's knowing which questions to ask, and that's the same for like even when I show up as a one man band to a local restaurant client, I'm like, okay, exactly this, like, where's this living? What are we trying to do here? And once you understand the parameters of what they're looking for, then you can start to kind of build something out.
Right. So I have actually created a system that I
Nice.
use for the story, which this is part of the crafting the image, which we haven't even explained what.
We're gonna get that into that. Literally my next question.
Yeah. So we can go through that now, or
let's do it, because
yeah.
I think that'll segue perfectly into talking more about the workshop.
Yeah. So I have this concept terminology, which I studied graphic design as well while I was in college, and a lot of what graphic design is, the way I learned about it, it's contemplative graphic design. So it really rides a line between fine art and graphic design, which I think we could all learn a lot from the graphic design process. There's a lot more writing on it. It's a lot faster. There's a lot more content. It's meditative, like it's deep. It's a lot of when you get into like the high end graphic design, it's contemplative, like it's who is this for, and why, and what story is it telling? So
it's very true. It's very honestly like graphic design and filmmaking are a lot of crossover, honestly, with like what story does this font tell, or why is this put over here? Like and anybody who's done any editing work, you're definitely maybe not a professional graphic designer, but you dive in a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the goal of film, I mean, with our roles as filmmakers is to align our intent with our impact.
Yeah.
And we get to choose like little things of like, okay, like how loose do we want to be like with our intent? And if we achieve like a little bit of a different impact on our audience, is that okay?
Yeah.
And so, and like how strict do we want to be? It's like this is our intent, and this is the impact that we're going to have on people. And so what I've worked on, what I've learned about is like having a range of choices. So you want to know, is like, is it initial idea, is this first thought, or are we exploring this idea? Is the visual going to be like symbolic or literal, or abstract, realistic, hyperreal? Is it lean more into a genre, a style, or a trend, or how do we blend those if we're having all three? So we're doing like noir and 90s hip hop with the first person drone flying through a bowling alley trend. It's like, how do those mesh, and how do we do that? Like, how do we do that visually to make all three of those elements work? And it's like, is it classic? Is it contemporary? Is it futuristic?
And for the audience, if none of those terms made sense to you, go do some YouTube research, because I literally, like as you said, noir, 90s style, like first person going through a bowling alley. I know exactly what that looks like.
Yeah.
And no, you're absolutely right. It's a visual language.
Yeah. And well, it's actually not just visual language, which is interesting. It's art language. It's
creative language.
This is literary terminology. Like, we're basing this off books, like, and how books are written, and it's like, this is how books are formatted and how they're thought about, right? And so this is what authors are already thinking about and have for thousands of years.
Right.
Now,
it's basic storytelling.
Yeah, it's basic storytelling. And but this gives you some frame of reference for how you're going to visualize it. If you don't know these things, if someone isn't telling you them, in some way you're making a decision on it, right? You are choosing if this is contemporary or classic. You are, like, if a director isn't saying it, then you're going to be the one making the like. And so those are the
that's what's so interesting, is because the director, like, those are the questions that, like, for people that want to be directors, that's the kind of stuff you need to have an answer on.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't have an answer, if you're not getting one, there's also a choice of not to make a choice and to say, like, we're going to use whatever resources we see there.
Right.
We're going to use like anything that's available, and we'll get creative on the spot. And that's certainly a choice. And that's,
because that also lets the camera department play a little bit more.
Yeah, and it does, it tells you a little bit more about the technical, about the creative, and about the like what the managerial is going to be, which are the three aspects of cinematography. So, like,
say that again.
It's a creative, technical, and managerial.
Okay.
And I say it in that order specifically. It's creative first, because that's your story, what you need to know. A technical can come is second, and then by managerial, you're overseeing your crew, everyone there, and that there's certainly many methods to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I love that. So yeah, that's fantastic. Like framework for cinematography. So let's dive into crafting the image. Because I know there's a lot to cover. So I think just for the bite-sized podcast here, we can kind of go into like 3 tips that people can use from the workshop to improve their cinematography skills.
Great. So the first tip I give, if you come to one of these events, the number one thing you could do to be a better cinematographer is take care of your mental and physical health. It's like, and I don't mean that like totally as a joke.
No, it's true.
I have a therapist, and it's like, these films can actually be traumatizing, whether they go really poorly or if they go really well. If they go really well, at the end of the show, it ends. There's an end to that. And that can be like, you have to like get back into normal life. And all of the people you just got so close with and you were working with every day, they're all going back to whatever it is they're doing.
Right.
And there's the sort of sadness to it, like that you don't know when you're going to see them again, and you don't know when you're going to have like a great experience like that again. And so no matter what, it's like these little shows and these big shows are going to have an impact on you. So you need to find a way like to make sure that you have the resources that you need to be like the best person, like both on and offset. And also, if you are stable like offset, you'll be more stable on.
Oh, 100%. Like, yeah, by the way, creatives, find some hobbies. Seriously. Find some hobbies. I love snowboarding. I love, doing, I mean, this stuff, it's all, but like, I know from what I see online, some are like, when you get creative, when you are working creative, it can really take over your life because you say yes to everything because you kind of need to. But like being able to take an off day and like relax yourself and like, again, steady yourself is important.
Yeah. And so yeah, I mean, I could go on and on about that, and I think that's, it goes into our choices too as a cinematographer, and like, but I'm gonna go ahead and move on from that.
For sure. If you want to hear more about that, well, I mean, again, if you want to hear more about any of this stuff, crafting the image is. Are you putting it online or is it only in person?
No, so it's only in person at the moment, and so. So crafting the image. So I should explain what this is.
Yeah. Let's get some context.
So crafting the image is it's a free workshop that I put on that is at least a 2-day intensive course. So it is for cinematographers who are early to mid-level. We go over things that are creative, technical, and managerial. And what it is it's an intensive. So it's kind of, I don't want to call it a master class because just like I'm not a master. Like there's plenty.
When master class hires you to do it, you can make it a master class.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
No, and just from I've been through it and I learned so much, and it's really, you're really doing something that is needed in the industry.
Thank you. Yeah. And so crafting the image is focused on building accessibility to arts education. As you know, like I had a very privileged arts education. I was so lucky to have it from a young age. And I know that people are just coming out of college and, or they're in the industry and they just feel like they might be behind on certain arts knowledge. And the fact is that you can find, you can find a lot of this knowledge, but it's really like one-off and there's no curriculum to it. So what I've done is I've built a curriculum around this to give these intensives so that I can continue doing them when I'm not working on set. So you have crafting the image, like a creative approach, part 1, 1, 2, and 3. So, and then technical approach is 1, 2, and 3, and then a managerial approach. I'm still working on the managerial approach. It goes so deep, and there's so little and a lot of information on managerial. I've taken some business classes, and I thought that was really helpful. But you find that lots of people have very different ways of managing a set.
100%.
But yeah, so. The goal is to promote DEI in the film industry and help those who have not had the privilege or access to that education earlier in their lives or now to get more information and give them a better chance of success in this industry. It's a great place to network and also and just it's just a fun time. It's very chill, as much as it is intense, and I deliver a lot of information. I'm asking questions, we're engaging, and it's a lot of fun.
It seems like you're the perfect person to put the workshop on too, because you have background in both the teaching and curriculum and work, doing professional work, which is really the marriage of those two sides is what is needed for that.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm grateful, again, to having the education background and teaching in front of a class. I've learned more and more that's it's a really important skill set, and I think that talking in front of talking in front of a lot of people and sharing your knowledge there's a little bit of a leap of faith, and so it can be a little scary.
Yeah, for sure.
Like even to this day, like
Of
sometimes,
course, it never goes away.
yeah. But now I find it's a great skill set to have, like as both like as a continuing educator, but also as a cinematographer, because
Yeah.
you work with your teams, you have meetings every day, you have to give little tips and advice all the time. It's very personal.
So let's take one kind of starter tip from each of the categories that you've put down, so that some tacticals, so that people listening can have an idea of what's in it.
Yeah. So starter tips. Okay. So I haven't written anything down, but
No, you're good.
I just have so many on a creative level. Um, I think that, like, maybe we've already covered this, but it's really like have an intent before you set up the frame and before you light.
Yeah.
Make sure you know what you want to get out of it before you set up the light, and do not like try to find the intent after you've set it up. Which it's like that's
No, that makes complete sense. Like, you should be setting up lighting to do something specific, not just to set up lighting.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the real skill of the art, right? You are able to find your intent and have that impact. And that's also how you're going to find your own like auteur, if you like, to uh, say, this is how I usually do this, and I like this, and this is the impact it seems to have on people, and that's what I want. And then eventually you build on that, and you find other, intents every time. So intense to build off of.
Intense, yeah, I love that. That's a really, because that is general enough that like that can really that can work for any style of film or video that you're making. Like a successful one needs an, it's like for in the YouTube universe having a hook.
Yeah, and there's the second part of that is not explaining the impact to people, but trusting people when they tell you what the impact is. So you have to listen to them when they say, like, this feels a little more like this and not like this.
Yeah.
And I think that, they don't have to be some major artists. Like, they can be some nobody on, I say nobody. No one's a nobody. All right. Yeah. But I think that it can be anyone, because who are we making these films for?
Right.
At the end of the day, it's like, yeah, like, if it's for the director, then, and just the director, like, yeah, you can get the director's opinion on that. If it's if it's for your mom, like, I don't know, get people who might have a similar opinion to your mom, or like if you're trying to go theatrical, like, it might help to have a screener with people, and trust that what they see is right. Or like what they're thinking about it is the way to think about it, and trust that maybe it's not working the way that you thought it was working.
Yeah, that's it. No, that's a huge thing. I mean, especially for specific art pieces, is like getting, I think, the testing phase. Like a lot of people will just send it and like, okay, this is what it is. But like if if you're interested in that process, especially because that process is so big at the higher levels of testing, of getting feedback, of there's more. It's this is why it's a team sport.
Yeah, and man, see, this deserves another hour. I mean,
by the way, I don't. We're not even. We're scratching the surface, and we're already an hour in. So I'm not. If you have time, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm chilling. Okay, so yeah, I think that
having intent,
that having intent, understanding like the impact that it's actually having. And your audience isn't like, you don't always make things for your audience. That's not like the best way to get creative. It's not always just the people. Make it for yourself, and that's important too. As far as technical is okay. So I am a tech freak. I like.
You have to be.
I love a good deep dive on like lenses or cameras and understanding like the ins and outs and the flaws. And like it's like I like all the things that AC's like. I just hate screws, bolts and organizing.
That's the best description of DPA versus ACing I've ever heard. I like all the same stuff without the screws.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I'm glad that rings for you.
Yeah, 100%.
So
Hey friends, it's your podcast buddy Noah Midman here, and I want to talk to you a little bit today about one of my passion projects, my clothing brand, Clothing for Creators. Roll the tape.
If my life were a movie, the hero's big speech would end with, "Stop waiting, start creating." Because that's the drive behind my story. Like when I couldn't afford to finish film school. So instead, I started my own production company and gave myself a trial by fire YouTube business degree. And it's not just me with these kinds of stories. There is this growing movement of passionate, creative, flow state writing, hustling, persistent creators and entrepreneurs that are taking the internet and the world by storm.
Everybody told me I wasn't going to be able to make any money as an artist. Now, 15 years later, I've worked on 3 continents. I do own my house. My shop, I'm booked out 8 months ahead. I don't subscribe to being a starving artist.
Creativity and I are very deep, dark lovers. I've just decided I'm just gonna make stuff. And even if it's not perfect, like, it's getting made.
You're gonna think that there's right answers and there's not. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Let's just throw dye on it and it'll look great.
You don't need rules some old guy in a suit made up. You don't need anyone telling you that your voice doesn't matter. We are makers, creative types, side hustlers, doers. Why? Because we get shit done.
The most important thing every single day is just to get your shit done.
Just keep doing it, keep producing, keep creating, and as you do that, you're going to start becoming the person that you want to be.
Don't be scared to try. Commit. You can't half-ass do something. We're full-ass around here.
So there's a film you need to make, a company you need to create, a voice you need to share, a product you know the world needs. Put all of yourself into it until anyone who has ever doubted you starts asking you for a job. Then you get to play for a living. You get to create community.
Partnerships, collaborations, building bonds with people that like the same stuff you like.
You get to live with your heart on your sleeve, a smile on your face, and a solid answer to when anybody asks, why do you do what you do?
Sometimes you have to say fuck all the rules to get something that you really need to get out of yourself.
You don't need the opinion of the old guy in the suit.
You have to give yourself permission to just go. A little less conversation, a little more action.
Clothing for Creators. Go check out snowmanfilms.shop today.
Hey there, fellow creatives. Conversations with Creators dives deep into the minds of successful filmmakers, artists, musicians, and all-around awesome people. We are looking for some kick-ass sponsors to help us keep this show on the road. If you want to reach a tribe of dedicated listeners who are just as passionate about creating as you are, then look no further. Our audience is full of people who appreciate a good laugh and are always on the lookout for new ways to fuel their creativity. So, let's team up and create some magic together. We'll work with you to make sure that your brand is showcased in the best light possible. And who knows, maybe we'll even become lifelong friends. Just imagine, years from now, we'll be reminiscing about the good old days when we first teamed up to take the world by storm. Send us an email at noah@snowmanfilms.net to say hey and get the ball rolling. Now back to the episode.
Oh, man. So what was I going to say? So technical. It's important to know as much as you can before you get to set. And that requires research and videos. That is just like a constant keep up to date. But I also think it's so important that to know when you're being duped by marketing, and what is marketing and what is the actual truth and what is your source for it. I think the number one things I can point to about this is dynamic range. What is the dynamic range of this camera? Every company will give you a different dynamic range, and they'll say oh, this is the C300 Mark III from Canon is a 16 step has a 16 stop dynamic range. And it's like, oh, but then you have the Arri Mini LF, which is a phenomenal camera, like top of the line, but it only has 14 and a half stops of dynamic range. How could that be?
Marketing versus reality.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't like, and you're not really looking at the picture for what it is. So you need to test. You need to also like get out there, get to like literally go to a rental house. They want you to look at their stuff and play with it. Go build a camera, you know. It's hands-on and seeing it for yourself, and then learning like by experience, but from seeing it, by holding these things, like what is actually good, and like what you like and what you don't like, you know, instead of leaning just on YouTube and
I think that also for creating your own education, like that's one of the best things you can possibly do is literally just show up, you know, Google, you know, camera rental houses near me, hit them up and be like, hey, I just want to like shadow for the next week. And because I, you know, guarantee ACs and DPs are going to be in there building stuff and may even be you know, willing to answer questions. Like that is just the best use of time ever.
Absolutely. And that goes for grip and
100%, all the departments, yeah.
You know, G&E. And they're so yeah, I mean, and I can say like that's advice I was giving early on. That's, you know, advice I got early on, and you know, it's something I followed up on.
I need to do more of that, honestly.
Yeah. LSI Lighting Services Inc. in Denver, they actually let me come in for a few days and help them out. I had already like run an equipment cage like like after I got
I did too, by the way. I was about a month or two that I was going to be in there, and I honestly got quite a few jobs out of it for the lower level stuff, but again, just being around.
Yeah, just being around, and these are the guys who know the guys who are getting work, and they're recommending work as well. You're getting tips. They see how good you are with these things. They're thinking about what questions you're asking them. It's not like a high pressure thing, you know.
No, it's very chill. And when you know, just go, you know, you can be there for however long you want. Like it's not working there, it's learning, and that's literally because again, there's professional creatives every single day coming in to pick stuff up, to build, to, you know, whatever it is, and that is that, you know, if you want hands on, it doesn't get more hands on than that.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, and don't be shy, because also like they're a business, and eventually like you're gonna bring them sales.
Yeah.
And they know that. Like this is how they
the more you learn that, you know, who are you going to go to when you're working finally with stuff is them. Like that. It's a circle. Absolutely.
Exactly. And they'll probably cut you a deal.
Yeah.
Like if they won't, you should probably try something else. Yeah, most people just give a discount out of courtesy. So I think that's a really excellent way to learn around the technical.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then also I think reading is just so important for like cinematography especially, and AC. You know, the American Cinematographer's Manual is a phenomenal resource. It's pretty deep, but I think it's something to always have on your bookshelf. And as you learn more, you will understand more of that book, and that's like a really wonderful feeling. Like to just say like, where am I at in my career as you through it? It's like, oh, like you know, first time I read it was college, and I was like, I have no idea. I have no clue.
It's a way to actually catalog progress.
Yeah,
which is amazing.
Yeah. And so, but now I can read through the whole thing and like, oh yeah, I understand like these brands and these people, and I know vendors, and I know like I can reach out to these people directly if I need to. And you know, I like have been lucky enough to like coordinate and meet with the people who wrote it. You know, it's
wow.
And like ASC members are extremely accessible. Like you can just reach out and Instagram them and be like, hey, you want to grab a coffee? I'm new in town. I'd love to do this thing.
The power of the Instagram DM cannot be understated.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really wonderful.
It's how this happened.
Yeah, exactly. It's I could just go and go.
I love it. All right, so managerial.
So so number one thing that you should always fight for your team is a fair pay for your crew first.
Yeah.
And this can be hard, but before you, if you pay your teams well, they will recognize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they will.
We all know it's not the opening email of like, listen, it's not a great rate, but
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh man, like DP is getting like $2,000 for their
right.
camera and themselves for half a day or something, and then the AC is getting $215 a PA rate.
Right.
Like, well, something's not budget.
Yeah, like happy you got your money, but a little spreading the wealth around would be nice.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a strange. It can be a strange dynamic, and we don't have a lot of control over that as a DP. Which is also why I have a production company live a little, and it's like I take that approach every time. It's like we're not making a ton of profit on the top on all of these things. It's just pay the crews right, and everyone will be happy. But also, as far as being on set and talking with people, transparency and communication needs, is so important. Really about, okay, let's see. I got a few different tips that are just flowing through my head. So one is, so you want to be really transparent if there's an issue that could come up. If you talk with your gaffer, talk with your key grip, and it's like if the director is saying like, oh, I might need a shot from outside of that window up on the third floor, that's your grip's job. And so really like they say they might want it, it's like you need to go talk to the key grip like in that moment to see if he has the rigging equipment for it, or if you need to make a compromise. And so it's important to just like
as close to reading a mind as you can possibly get is working on set.
Yeah, exactly. And like a great key will always be listening like over your shoulder, but they can't do that all the time, and it's like everyone has things to be doing. And so you just like kind of plant that and keep the flow going, try and stay ahead of it as much as possible.
Absolutely. I mean, even just a little more on that, like, being in AC when somebody's like, I think we may switch, I may want to get a tighter, like a shot. You go get the tighter lens ready, even if they don't want to use it. You just heard they might, so you need to be ready for when that happens.
Yeah. And know that, like, again, going off of this, this is a little different topic, but I wanted to say, going back to the ladder versus elevator concept. And it's like, we're not, the guy at the top of the ladder, like shouting down at everybody to hurry up,
Right.
and get back to work. And it's like, and work harder. And it's like calling them idiots and whatnot. That exists.
I was like, I've seen it.
Yeah. It's not great.
It's awkward.
Yeah. Morale is so important to a set, and that just like kills it. It kills the vibe. It kills the energy of like, who you want to work with. I mean, some people love it. Some people, I don't know that they love it. Some people are, like some people work with it, and that's great. But it's like
people that ego is more important than the actual work, they love it. But other than that,
right. But the understatement there, when someone is yelling at you, it's that you are not already like trying your best at this job. Like you are like, right, you are not already putting your best foot forward.
I know.
And it's like, so you're just, if they're assuming that about you, then that's
sure.
Like, that's a problem.
And that
needs to be dealt with differently. Like if they think that you're not doing your best at your job, then they should come talk to you, and they need to have that real conversation. And those are hard conversations to have. It's like, I see you're working on this. I see you're working hard, and I think I'm going to have to move you into a different role because this is, this seems to be above your experience, and that's okay.
And you have to, and the big thing, especially because it will happen, it's happened to me, it's happened to everybody. Like you need to be aware of that and okay. It's not a hit on you as a person. Just like, it's true. I'm a little over my head with knowledge, and for the good of the project, it's, that the project over the individual, I think is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think that's let's see, managerial. I don't know, like kindness just goes a long way in this industry, and you'll go much further.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
I literally just scheduled that as an Instagram post for a couple weeks from now, and always just the don't be a dick, unless you're Nigel Dick, and then you can be the dick because it's your last name, and he's the most humble, awesome guy ever.
Yeah. There you go. One exception.
Yeah, exactly. If your actual name is Dick, you can be a dick.
But yeah, and with managerial, I always tell, I mean, with the course, when I'm teaching people as far as what film is like and how we should be treating it, and this might be disappointing, but it is no different than a corporate world. And anything that is not acceptable in the office is not acceptable on set. I mean,
it's a little more swearing, but other than that,
oh yeah. Whatever, like swearing's no big deal. Like, yeah, it's more chill in these things. Like, yeah, there's probably an electrician smoking weed on the left over there. That's like,
What else do you do on the GM truck, man? No, cigarettes is the main thing.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's like that is just the general rule of thumb. Like, if you have a problem, talk to your higher up about it. If something's wrong, talk to your higher up. If there's something that you see down the line, shoot an email. It's like,
well, there's like small stuff. Like if you're and it's small stuff that could get you fired. Like if you're a PA and you tell the DP or the director that to change something, you're not a good look.
Not a good look.
Know your role. No, like again. So I think exactly what you said. Within your department, whoever's like in charge of that's who you bring stuff up to, and they will let you know if it's deserves to be brought up to everybody, or if it's just like, oh no, they'll figure it. Like it's whether you should worry about it or not.
Yeah, and I on that note, like if there is an AC who I know is also a DP who's who's on my set and whatnot, I really don't mind personally, like asking, like, it's like, do you think there's something up with this? Like, it's like, and getting that extra tip, and it keeps them excited. It keeps them interested in the game. And that could be a managerial trick and a creative thing to do. And it's like, oh, that's a really good idea. Like, yeah, let's do that. And that,
like when you're in the right place, collaboration is definitely part of it. It's not just,
Yeah, and when
see how complicated this is, everybody.
Yeah. And so yeah, and man, what else? When I look at, so if you look up, let's see, it's like crew hierarchy, like film crew hierarchy is like the New Mexico film crew hierarchy specifically, that breaks down all of the positions. And you also need to understand, like, you're not the only one wearing a bunch of hats. Like, a lot of times it's your crew, and it's the people under you who are carrying a lot of extra weight, like for you. And so you want to, when you look at that list and you say, like, all right, I have a first AC and I don't have a second AC and I don't have a camera PA. Like, okay, so it's not their first AC is doing a second AC and a camera PA.
They're going to be, they're never going to stop moving.
Right, exactly. They're going to be doing all the work, and and that's a lot of work for them.
It's huge.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's one of those, like, respect that, know, like, that, like, when you show gratitude like that, it's like yeah, you're doing like 3 jobs right now, and that's hard, and especially if you're a DP and you're like, yeah, I need 1 AC for 3 cameras, and it's like, hopefully that never happens.
Oh, God.
Thankfully I haven't had to do that yet.
But this is actually good, exactly what you said, and I just want to like really reiterate for the audience, Googling film crew hierarchy will really help with knowing your way around. Just when you show up, knowing something about all this.
Yeah, and it's yeah, and knowing those positions, and you can look at the different roles and responsibilities.
Yeah, go down all the rabbit holes
of those positions, and it's a beautiful, yeah, it's a great way to start, great way to get to know. And also, like, if you really want to get to know it, you can also just call someone who is in that position, or shoot, like, that's something you can do a cold email on, just like, yeah, I just want to ask a few questions about your job.
Yeah, what is the role? Like, what do you know, what are the, I had to learn a ton of that, of like literally first AC versus second AC is completely different.
Yeah, and that's, that's something that's accessible. One thing I love, and what you could, whatever, like, everyone talks about what they love the film industry. Don't you love it? Isn't it great? And it's like, yeah. But what I really like love is how open people can be with information when you ask for it.
That's very true.
Yeah, I'd say the most successful people are the people who answer questions and who also ask questions when they need to. And there's no hesitation about it. It's like, oh, I don't know how to do that. Can you show me how to do that?
Yeah.
And that's totally normal. And
because think about, all of this is based around making the day. All this is based around the team effort that goes into getting the shots and the story done that we're trying to get done in the day. If you don't ask and somebody has to redo the work because you didn't know what you were doing, versus the 5 minutes it takes for somebody to answer that and teach you the correct way, that's just a way better place. So never be afraid to ask questions, no matter what level. That's a huge piece of advice there. Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's see. And as far as asking questions, I'm gonna veer away from that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'll go. So that was, I love that. That was a very deep dive into, and obviously this is 20-30 minutes on a 3-day intensive workshop. So definitely go check it out if you can find JD's next crafting the image. We'll link it to where. By the way, did you know your website is down right now?
Oh no, I did not. Oh no.
While you look that up, what has been for you a memorable experience or project that really had an impact on your career?
I think that the one we just finished, this feature film, which is my first feature film as
Congrats.
director. Yeah, thanks.
That's huge.
As director and DP, which is like,
that's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot of work, but it was so impactful and wonderful because I had, like, when I asked for the help on it, when I was hiring the crews, it was like everyone that I wanted was available. And and this had been years.
Awesome.
It's been years of like planning and getting to a point where we could actually film like the final part of it in October. And it's just 5 days. So, but we needed, like, I wanted everyone there, and then I wanted my post-production team there. Ian Marks, we had this Ben Messelbeck do a composer come on.
Nice.
It's really wonderful. We had been talking for months before that. We got color from Company 3. Emily Bailey over there did a wonderful job. But really having like everyone come together and put their best foot forward and lean in, and I felt like extremely grateful to that help and their expertise, and to not feel like at any point like I was carrying like anyone on my.
It sounds like you understood the concept of hire people that are higher at your level or higher, because it's exactly the formula for going well and being a good experience.
Yeah, exactly. And that's and you have to know what you don't know too.
Yeah.
Do that.
Did you say you shot a feature in 5 days?
So it was 13 days total.
Okay. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, and it was over the last 3 years.
Quick.
Over the last 3 years, and we had to still use.
Oh, okay. It was overtime. I got you.
Yeah.
It wasn't all together.
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, how you do it when when you're trying to piece it together, however you can. And that's why it takes especially for, if you're not dealing with the, millions of dollars budget for stuff, you can make a feature on weekends.
Yeah, and so the film comes out in May on PBS.
Hell yeah!
So May 1st, which is exciting. It'll be.
This is perfect timing for this podcast, then.
Yeah. So it'll be in Southern California first for the first part of May for the first 2 weeks, and then it'll be nationally after that. So
you go. Wait, okay, so PBS on PBS stations.
Yes. Yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
So yeah,
you gotta send me the link to where that will be, or like how people can find that once it actually.
Yeah. PBS on demand.
On demand, yeah, perfect. The app. Hey, listen, streaming's king. I realized recently how long it's been since I've been to a movie theater, and not by any. I've just been busy or broke or whatever, and it's just so depressing.
Yeah, definitely gotta get out there and slacking myself.
So what's the name of the movie?
Snapshots of Confinement.
And what's our little the elevator pitch on it?
Sure. Yeah, it's a documentary about Japanese Americans photo albums that were created during World War II.
Wow.
And their significance today. There's an effort out there to preserve them, and it's around themes of generational trauma and preservation. And
nice.
So, yeah, it's really wonderful stories. Really incredible participants and subjects who were willing to talk on camera, and it was just felt great to have it.
Talking about having a clear communication and a good working set when people are diving that deep into their personal stuff and maybe some trauma and all that, you really need a empathetic set for that, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And there's we were filming with 96 and 97-year-olds, and
wow.
There's they were all very spiteful, so
that's great.
Didn't feel that way.
You're about to die. How was your life? No, that's awesome. That's what we all hope for, is a nice long life, that you're still there with it mentally.
Yeah, and they're just wonderful, and really gave as much information as they could, and it was just awesome. Yeah,
that's super cool.
Yeah, as far as the set workflow, it was all right, try to just be set up before anyone shows up, and then we'll get it done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So with that's kind of storytelling, and we've gone a little bit into technical. How do you see the future of cinematography evolving, specifically with technology? With obviously we have kind of the giants of camera all fighting for the new stuff. But who are you impressed by, and where do you see things going?
As far as tech and brands and all of it, okay. That's a good question. Let's see. I don't want to knock anyone. That's not.
Yeah, I would say maybe who are your go-tos, your favorites that you just had really good experiences with.
Yeah. Well, I'm naturally biased because Area has been really kind to me. They let us do our crafting the image workshop there, where we also.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, and we taught
that's the place to do it.
Yeah, and we also taught the crafting the image. So we taught virtual production while we were there as well on their volume, which was really just awesome. And they've just been forward and upfront about everything. But also, I own an Arri camera, which I think the biggest thing that I love is that Arri has had this true information first, really forward information. There's a science behind all of their decisions. Of course, they have their own marketing, like every business does, that you have to. There might be some things that are hidden, that are purely business decisions, and that's well within their right. But when they put out white papers and on the technical textures and dynamic range and exposure control and whatnot, it's those are extremely valuable little pieces of paper to like for a DP to see and understand, and they're not beating around the bush. They're saying like, this is what our camera is best at. These are the settings that we would prefer it to be, and this is why we limit it, because we know that we can guarantee like the best color and the best color rendition and the best processes and the long-term value of your product by keeping these settings at this. And
just by telling the truth. Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like, that's all I want. It doesn't mean that they're the best for every job.
Right. No, but being upfront with that information is just like, because if you get marketing that's like, it says it does this and then it doesn't, you're like, what the, okay.
Yeah, so that's definitely my bias, of course. And then but I don't know, I'm excited for all the companies. We're in this moment right now, and I say it with like, I'm also like really into lighting. I was doing gaffing for a while as well, and it's on the lighting side, like Aperture has an incredible team. Tim King, like ASC, is now their principal engineer, who's over at Quasar, and those Quasars like still kick ass. And so it's just like they got like, and they pulled in Mitch from ProLight, and ProLight has been they just put out that astounding product, and so now that we're going to see that in the Aperture lineup, that's exciting. But
Aperture is definitely where it's at for lights.
And
they even have social media presence. Like, they're really doing a lot. They're awesome.
Yeah, their marketing is crazy. It's wild.
Which is great. It's like liquid death. Like, you got to stand out somehow.
Exactly. But what I'm most excited about is that everyone is trying to get rid of their tungsten units, and I can buy them up because they're still awesome, man. There's nothing else like it. Like, man,
you're like, give me it.
Like, you don't want that? Like, okay, I'll take that from you. Like,
No, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's kind of the thing, though. It's like these LED lights, and everything's exciting and it's changing, but it's year over year, and DPs gaffers have been having to change out their LED units every other year.
Oh my God, really?
It's like,
just shelf-life's not very long.
You get 2 years and then it stops renting because there's a new product out.
Right.
And
you just got used to that.
Want that on the truck. People want the latest product on the truck. And there are some really like great form factors and great lights out there, but I also think that there's a foundation of lighting missing in young filmmakers today that are using things like tungsten and direct lights. Like, tungsten is so, like, it's such a great way to learn exactly like how, like, the limitations of a light, but also like how just like how well they had the formula down for 70 years.
Right.
It was like, great, light goes straight in this direction, it's a Fresnel, and it's like, and here's how we do that, and then we put that through a frame, and there is no like, and if you dim it, like, you can turn down the Kelvin output on it.
Right.
But I can guarantee you that when you set that light up 10 feet away from this thing, you will, like, no matter which unit it is, like, no matter where you found it, it's going to light to this particular stop.
Sure. Yeah, it's going to do the same thing.
5.6.
Yeah.
And that is your system right there. And that is something that, like, Aperture is wonderful. It has all these dials and things, like, and even Arri just put out a new like LED Fresnel, and it's like, it's wonderful, but you're not going to learn like exactly what that light can do at 50%. You're just going to be like, oh, it's too bright, I'm just going to go dim that real quick. And so you can be more intentional if you have those foundations.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Again, it's like the knowing the rules so that you can, break the rules or go with the rules. Like, I feel like the more dials available, the more you can screw it up.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I compare these things to having a car, and this is also why I lean toward Arri, like Arri versus Red, which they're both like beautiful products. They're wonderful. They do great work, and but Red has you know, Airy is, it's actually really simple. Like you're gonna be like, oh, I want to like handle an Alexa, and you pick it up and you go through the menu, and it's like, oh, like it's like you got NDs and NDs, ISO, and you know,
all the basics, all the stuff that we've been doing since film school.
It's so different than any other camera. Well, okay, I guess I played with that now, like, you know. And then you go to Red, and it's like, all right, you have all of these like crazy compression ratios and these different frame rates, and if you're in this frame rate, you can only record at this aspect ratio, and you know, and it's like that's really cool. I just need something that shoots 16:9, and you know, so it's
what I always like to say. It feels like Red is like the celebrity, and Airy, it has, you know, is the workhorse behind the scenes that like the majority of Oscar projects are shot on.
Yeah.
Like very, very rare to find a high level. I mean, you know, again, it's all preference, but like Red is not attached to like, you know, the Oscar noms. For the most part.
Yeah, and that's kind of it with like, you know, it's not like not even just Red though. It's a lot of people are learning on DSLRs.
Oh yeah, that's. I mean, I run my whole business off of a A7 III.
You're right. It's, you know, A7 III is.
It works great for what I need.
It really does. It really does. And like, and that menu system.
Oh.
Like, it's like, what do you have, like 12 pages that you
okay. All I want, camera manufacturers, all I want is the low light and capabilities and stuff, like, you know, slow-mo, all that stuff that the A7 III has with the fucking menu system of Blackmagic, please.
Yeah.
Blackmagic is so good on menu systems.
Yeah, Sony's really funny. I think the thing that all of these companies could use is like a simple button, like just go to like
yes, dude,
and it's just ISO, aperture, and shutter speed, and that's it.
Oh my god, 100%.
Like just that's all I do. That's all I need.
Just get me shooting. Yeah, because the autofocus is so good now. I haven't touched the focus dial in like a year, which is insane. I mean, sometimes I do when you need, but like if they can make the menu system as simple as the autofocus thing, then we're really in good shape.
Yeah, they're just overdoing it. They're overthinking it. And
fucking 17 pages for, you know, of menu systems for just, you know, just camera settings.
Yeah, and you look at like a $10,000 Leica M11, you know, and you're it's just those 3 settings, you know.
Right. What's funny too is like I'm trying to think the specifics. You know, I would never dream of touching 75% of that stuff in the pages. Like sometimes, like I don't know, it's unneeded. You don't like. Cool. You know what's good. Put it in. Like we trust you.
Yeah, exactly. And for photography especially, it's just you know, like I think that's a huge part of why people just like film cameras in general. It's because they're like actually quite easy, you know, like and so
easy is good with how much other stuff you have to worry about.
Yeah, exactly.
What are some of your favorite? I'm gonna do top 3 maybe films and I don't know. That top 3 films is hard. Let's go top 3 filmmakers who have influenced your work, who you look up to, who are really doing some cool stuff.
Oh boy, that's a good question.
Films is impossible. I'll go filmmaker. It's like body of work.
yeah, that's fine. Let's see. You know, so what I like to do is like I think that I'm more of like a, you know, it's like I like the knowledge of jazz music, like, you know, in film, and like but I do like pop, you know. Like you know, like I want to make films that the general world will like. And so oh man, what's his name, Van Hoven, who did RoboCop, and he also did Starship Troopers, which is not as great, but
but like I mean cult classic, you know.
I actually love like the satire of Starship Troopers.
It's so good. It's hilarious.
Yeah, and all those effects really hold up. Like
they're not bad. They're not bad.
Visual effects. I'm shocked. I am shocked. Story wise, like whatever.
Yeah, it's again, it's the ultimate camp. It's
great. But I love that.
Giving the thumbs up after killing the bug, like it's hilarious.
And RoboCop, it's just so fun, man. I just like, it's like I love I mean the craft of it, and the satire behind it, and if it was like it was before its time, and it felt like it felt like it stepped into something that was really wonderful. And he's a kind of director who doesn't make films the same way, or he doesn't make it. He makes them the way that he wants to. And I think that's really like important and special, and
huge.
Something that
you gotta have your voice on it.
Yeah, you gotta hold on to your integrity, right?
Yeah.
Let's see who else. I love Kubrick, of course. Like that's a given. And let's see, who have I enjoyed recently? Man, you're really putting me through choose.
No, you're good. I'll even add one in. So
Yeah,
I have kind of a hands down favorite, which just because of, again, style and just the cleanliness of it. Edgar Wright is
Edgar Wright,
master.
Yeah, Edgar Wright was wonderful. Let me see, what's his whole? I'm gonna look up his whole IMDb here. Because he just did. No, he hadn't done anything recently, right? No.
Yeah, he did. So I'm trying to
Last Night in Soho, right?
Last Night in Soho was the most recent one. For me, like the Cornetto trilogy are untouchable. And Scott Pilgrim was my favorite film for quite a while, and then he just keeps coming out with more awesome stuff. But just his style is so apparent. And honestly, it's funny. I was sad that he had to step down from Ant-Man. But if they had made him not be Edgar Wright with his way of doing things on that, it would have not. I get it.
If I don't know if
Edgar Wright does not ever make a non-Edgar Wright movie, which I love.
if everything were Scott Pilgrim versus the World, though, I think that is a pretty perfect movie.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's so just even just like the scene where he's peeing and the pee meter goes down and then disappears. Like, it's just all the small shit that's like, it feels like a comic. It is the most feeling like a comic book movie I've ever seen from a comic book, and it completely did it justice.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I was thinking Gareth Edwards actually is.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure I know his work. I've some of it.
Yeah, he just did The Creator. Which, like, it's the approach that is really fascinating to me, and I feel like maybe their marketing worked on me, but it's like Oren Saffer. So Oren Saffer is the DP. Him and Greg Fraser. Greg Fraser shot Batman and Dune, and it's like he's.
I need to see Dune too. I've heard everybody just freaking out over it.
Yeah, but I think that having a director's trust to have two DPs on set is like incredible, and allowing that collaboration to happen. Also having not looking at it like, oh, we need the best of the best for everything, but saying like, what is actually what do we need to make this look like a $250 million budget? And they use the smaller cameras and smaller gimbals, and it's true, it really changed. I'd say it really created a different way of looking at these large Hollywood films that I think is really valuable. But also I think it inspired a lot of younger filmmakers, and to do that with a film is really powerful.
An accomplishment.
But he also he was the camera operator on all of his own shots. That's
the way I do it.
He's back there actually choosing his frames, and so he's working in collaboration with the DPs. And and that's something that with this hierarchy of director over DP, I don't really see it that way. I see it more as a partnership, because your goal as a DP is to support the director's visual image, but also you're filling in gaps that you see where they don't have the time. And really that's everyone's role, right? It's like if you're a wardrobe person, you don't stop at stop thinking about it at whatever the director tells you. You continue on that and you build off that.
Yeah.
And so that's but as a DP, it's like you're the person, you're the bottleneck. It's between that part of production and the crew, you know.
Yeah.
That's like, you know, you're also
kind of essential.
Yeah, and he's got his own side to do, which is more of like the art department, production design, and all of that. And then you have your side, and you know, it's still a team thing. These aren't like separate. Like you don't communicate with them. Period. Like you would definitely do. But yeah, I think that having the director step in and build a bridge over those lines and hear that, you know, he's someone who's really deliberate with his filmmaking, and you know, it's like those like that's like just a really beautiful thing and an amazing thing to see in the film industry. And I also think that with Monsters, it was him who he shot and directed it alone, I believe, and that was like just his passion projects that got him onto the scene. So,
yeah, that's epic.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
So we'll wrap it up with some kind of quick fire questions here.
Yeah, good.
What is one of your favorite quotes and why?
Oh man, I'm not a quote person. Yeah, I'm full of
I'll change it up. What's one of your favorite movie quotes and why?
Oh God, you just made it worse. Movie quotes. No, I think I'll just go with favorite quotes.
Okay.
Because yeah, I think quotes.
If you can't think of one, it's okay.
Yeah. No, I think you know, I mean, I think I just have like more like when I think of quotes, I think of like what mentors have told me
in
the past. And so I think one that I really stick to that I love is let's see, under promise, over deliver. And I just really, I love that. I think it's always true. Like it's a really safe space to put yourself in, but it also like it makes everybody happy at the end of the day. And so we really want to, like, no matter what it is, it's like, yeah, like it's okay to set up some boundaries and then expand on them, but it's not okay to, like, you know, set goals and not meet them. You know?
I think generally that quote is, that saying is just what it takes to be successful in anything. Under promising and over delivering, so that, you know, it always makes you look the best possible way you can look, and you know, you'll be able to figure out your level of talent, your level of expertise, all that stuff when you do that.
Yeah. And then what else?
That's fine. Just one. I think that's great.
The one fire question.
Yeah. No, I love it. Oh yeah. Other question.
Yeah.
All right. This may be hard. I'm sorry.
Oh man. All
right. You may have thought of it though because of the workshop. So, what's the title of your memoir?
Oh. God. Oh, title of my memoir. I had not thought about that. Let's see. Title of my memoir is oh boy. Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking like all that came to me was good luck, you know. Like no, it's
so you want to make it in the film industry. Good luck.
No, I think someone once told me that I'm a really man, what was the word? It's like not like targeted. I am like a like I deliberate person.
Yeah.
You really, like, you know, make decisions like if like as deliberately as possible.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've known from you, it definitely seems that way, which is great. It's a great way to do it.
You know, you try, you can't control everything, and it's just like
No, honestly, that's funny because I think everything we've talked about, like, it comes back to deliberate decisions. Like there's a reason behind everything, and that's a really good just summary of like how your brain works.
yeah, all right, I like that. The deliberate decisions is a
There you go.
that's my memoir.
And then obviously we talked about how this industry can kind of take up your whole life. What is a hobby that kind of helps you relax and takes you away from it all?
I play pool. So I joined my first pool league this year.
Nice.
I didn't think I ever had the time for it, and
You make the time.
Yeah, well, now that there's no work, like
oh, it's fun and depressing.
there's always something to do. It's like even if it doesn't pay off immediately, there's always something to find to get out there and do. And
you have to fill your time. Hey, listen, that could be your next documentary. Is a pool thing.
Yeah, my wife insisted that I join this league too. It would just make me a happier person, especially as someone who works from home. So
I know. Trust me, I know me. With as much editing work as I have, I'm always home. And I picked up ice hockey about a year and a half ago.
Nice.
And it's obviously non-contact, but it's so fun.
Yeah,
but it gets you out of the house, gets you doing something.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm like really good at pool, so if there's
you go
out there, like anytime.
Hey, listen, the best man for my wedding is actually they beat everybody else in Colorado when they went to a tournament in Vegas. With their league. So you guys should definitely play together. That'd be fun.
Yeah. That sounds great. Would love that.
Finally, let me kind of roll out the red carpet for you. Let everybody know what you got going on in your life.
Okay. Well, I don't think I ever fully got through my whole life story. My goodness. Like, yeah. Well, a couple years ago, we moved out to New York, and I'm building my production company, Live a Little. Video production company. You can look it up, LIVALITTLE.com. And Crafting the Image is a workshop that is it's going to be like a subsidiary of Live a Little. We're gonna have that happening at in July again here in New York, and then we're currently looking for partners and other people to help us collaborate so we can bring it to more cities. And then of course I am a freelance DP. That is my number one. That's the thing I do. Everything else is my side projects that keep me busy, but also help keep my friends busy and help people find work. And I think all of it goes hand in hand, and I like it that way. And so yeah, if you're a director,
you don't want to hire JD after this podcast, you're insane.
Yeah,
your stuff.
Yes, you're
inside
insane.
And out, man.
Insane. yeah. Well, yeah, I'd love to work with more creative agencies or producers, directors. Don't hesitate to reach out. Would love to collaborate. I have to update my reel and things, and
always.
Always. But I'm excited to say that we have plenty of great work to show that hasn't been released yet. And
until then, your Instagram is pretty much a just a good showing of what you're able to do.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, and I guess you can link that, but JD Gonzales DP. DM me. Doesn't matter. I'm pretty much.
Is that your main one, or are you on any other socials?
No, that's my main one.
Cool.
We just put that one for now.
Nice and simple. I love it.
Yep.
Well, hey, this has been an absolute blast, and I've even picked up a couple tips, which I figured I would, talking to you, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much, Noah. This has been awesome.
Oh yeah, for everybody watching and listening, I will see you next time.
All right, take care.